So good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the Introductions to the 5 Protective Factors to Build Strong Families training. This training is hosted by the Delaware Head Start Association, and we would like to take a minute to thank our sponsor, Delaware Department of Education, the Office of Early Learning, and our partners, the Delaware Readiness teams, and Prevent Child Abuse Delaware. So at this time, I am honored to introduce you to our presenter from Prevent Child Abuse Delaware, Nija Williams.
All right, thank you, Diane. All right, so before I get started, let me address the elephant in the room, my glasses. So I broke my glasses yesterday, and the way it broke, the screw can't come out. And I know I'm nosy, so I don't want you to spend the whole 2 hours of this training looking at me like, why does she have tape on her glasses? So that's why I'm addressing it now, so that way you can stay focused on the training and not think about this tape on my glasses. So that's that. This is the Introduction to the Protective Factors Framework training. I am Nija Williams, and I'm from Prevent Child Abuse Delaware. We are a small nonprofit located in Wilmington, but we provide programs and services throughout the state. We provide prevention education programs, so we go into schools and we talk to kindergarten through 6th grade students about body safety, about child abuse, secrets, touches, things like that. We also provide training for foster parents, so we do pre-training, pre-service training, so before they become a foster parent, helping them to get the tools and skills they'll need to be a foster parent. And then once they become a foster parent, we help them to keep up with the training and education they need in order to take care of our most vulnerable children. We also provide basic child abuse and neglect training for the general public, and that's what this would fall under. So today's training is going to cover a very, very surface level information about the protective factors and what they are. Each of you should have received some handouts that Diane sent to you. I'm just going to show you the handouts just so that way. All right. So are you guys seeing the cartoon? Just give me a thumbs up if you're seeing that. Okay. All right. So these are the handouts that Diane sent to you previous to this training. So there's a cartoon handout. There's a handout with stickies on it. And then there's information about each of the 5 protective factors. So there are 7 total handouts that you should have received about this particular training. And I'll get to those things at some point later on during the training. We'll cover those things in different activities. So the training itself is an hour and 45 minutes. And the reason it's not 2 complete hours is because I'm going to leave some time at the end for Diane to come back in and tell you guys a little bit about some things that are happening in the fall and some other information that will be helpful for you guys to have. So I will cover that. So this training is the Children's Trust Fund, was created this training. So I am a certified Children's Trust Fund Alliance trainer, and this was created from the protective factors created by the Center for the Study of Social Policy. So I'm just giving you this history just so you can get an idea of how this came about. So the CSSP created did lots of research to look at what protective factors would be helpful and helping families to not abuse and neglect their children, what things need to be done in order to protect families from some certain things happening. And so they did the research, and the Alliance, they're the ones who felt like they needed to put this information out there. So they created this training. And like I said, then they trained us to put it out there so that you guys can have information that's helpful about the protective factors. So I'm going to, I introduced myself, gave you a little bit of information about me. So I'm going to ask you guys to introduce yourselves. Of course, with this many people, there are now 79 people here. With this many people, of course, I would not think that it would be possible for us to all introduce ourselves. So we're going to go into our first breakout rooms. And when you get into your breakout room, I want you to introduce yourself, tell the organization you work for, what organization you're in. And then I want you to tell what your favorite childhood toy is. I was in a training, and this was one of the icebreakers that they did, and I really liked it, and I'll explain why. Now, if you could, Diane is going to breakout rooms, and Diane, with 80 people, if we could do 10 breakout rooms, so that way there are like 8 people in each room, and then we can give them like.
Can you repeat that, Naja?
Sorry.
How many rooms? I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
If we could do 10 rooms, since we have 80 people, like 10 rooms, and that should put around 8 people in each room. And then, like I said, once you get into your room, your name, your organization, so for St. Michael's, is there another group besides St. Michael's that's all together, Diane?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So, so for St. Michael's, since you guys are all in the same organization, for you guys, say your name, how long you've been with St. Michael's, and then talk about your favorite childhood toy. Okay.
We're also in a group at Kingswood under Adrian.
Okay. So
We're also a group. Primeros Pasos.
What's the other one?
Primeros Pasos.
And a leap of faith is also in a group.
Okay.
Good morning. Good afternoon. We're all in the group too. Zumba for the Rubies.
Yes, we're all in a group too, also from Milford Early Learning Center.
So Diane, did you get all of them?
I did. So what we'll do is why don't we do 8 breakout rooms? And if you happen to go into a breakout room and you're in a larger group, if you maybe just don't even click to go into the breakout room, you stay in the main lobby, but put yourself you can just mute and do the activity within your larger group. Did that make sense? Did everybody understand that?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, so we're going to give you like 7 minutes in the breakout rooms just to introduce yourselves, talk about, again, your favorite childhood toy, how long you've been with your organization, what your organization is, that kind of information. All right.
And make sure that you click to join your room so that you go into the breakout room.
So then I have 6 groups that are like together. Is that how many? Did you count that many?
Yes.
Okay.
If you're still in the main lobby, if you click join, that'll take you to your breakout room. If you need help, just speak up. Naja, the bigger groups I got was St. Michael's, Leap of Faith, Primeros Pasos, Hilltop. And I'm not sure
Milford Early Learning Center. And did you get Kingswood?
Didn't get that one.
Junebug's Little Rubies.
Oh, can you repeat that one more time? Dr. Juanita, can you repeat that?
Junebug's Little Rubies.
Junebug's Little Rubies.
Thank
Yes. Hey, Diane. Hi, Diane.
you. Hi. Naja, let me know when you're ready to bring them back. I think it closes for like 30 like it takes about 30 seconds to close out.
Okay. So when they went in, it was 1:13. So I said like 7 minutes, so at 1:20.
Okay.
In progress.
Diane, I'm looking in the chat. Is it, are you still able to see my screen?
I can see it, but that's because we're in the main lobby.
Okay. But
So
do you,
those in the chat room, in the breakout rooms, can't see it.
no, I mean, cause the chat is not on my screen, so I had to bring it up. So is it like blocking my screen or anything when I have it up?
So no, it's,
Okay.
you have a box in the middle of your thing, right?
No. Okay, so that's the chat thing. All right, so let me
Okay.
move to the side. I'll move it to the side.
I'm like, and Naja, if you want to, if I see, I can try to like keep an eye on the chat too. And if I see something, I can let you know.
Okay.
I
All
know
right.
how challenging that is navigating a couple of different things. So, except for when you move that, my breakout thing went away.
Oh. All right.
So,
How about if I go to the other side?
okay, now I was able to bring it back up.
All right, so
So,
is it
Yeah.
better?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I moved it to the
takes a
other.
little while to get people back, so I'm going to go ahead and start. bringing
Sounds
them
good.
back.
I'm ready.
Great. Oh, it takes a minute. We'll just have to remember that next time to start a minute earlier.
Sure.
All right, we're all back.
Right. So hopefully you met someone, you talked to someone that you perhaps didn't know, got some information about them. So let me explain why I like that particular icebreaker as far as introducing or saying what your favorite toy is. When you start to think about your favorite childhood toy, you maybe had some smiles and started thinking about how much you love that toy or how much you enjoy playing with different people with that toy. Perhaps as you heard other people say what their favorite childhood toy was, you thought, oh, I remember that, or I had one of those too, and it just brought back hopefully nostalgic, happy memories for you. And that's what we want for kids, right? We want them to have happy, enjoyable moments from their childhood. We want them to have good memories of their childhood. And so that's, again, why I like that particular icebreaker, because it hopefully makes you feel a little happy and hopeful, and a little joy comes into your day at this point. So now that we have introduced ourselves, I want to know what your goals are. And again, we're not going to do this individually because there are lots of us. But what we're going to do something called a chat waterfall. And so I want you to type your answer in the chat, but do not hit enter. Okay, so don't hit enter, because everyone's going to hit enter at the same time, and it again creates a waterfall effect. So the question for you is the answer I want you to put in the chat box is, what was your goal? Like when you signed up for this training, what did you hope to walk away with? When you saw the name of the training, what was your thoughts? Like, oh, I hope that she talks about, or I hope they discuss, I hope they give me more information on. So what was the goal, your goal in signing up for this training? What do you hope to walk away with? What information do you hope to walk away having?
Do you mind if I play my game with the volume on?
So again, go ahead and just type your answer in the chat box. But again, do not hit enter until I ask you to hit enter. So go ahead and just type your answer in, what your goal is for this particular training. I'm just going to give it a minute or two. All right, so if everyone could go ahead and just hit enter right now. And let's see. Okay. All right, so hopefully you are reading the chat as well as I am, just to see what people are hoping to walk away with. I hope that I'm able to provide you with these things. If at the end of this training there's something that you felt like you information you wanted to have, or you felt like I didn't cover enough, please feel free to contact me or Diane. Let me know, and if I can give you more information, provide you with more resources, I am more than happy to do that. So again, at the end of the training, if you felt like your particular goal was not met, let me or Diane know, and then I can hopefully do whatever I can to try and meet that particular goal. So now that I know what your goals are, so throughout this training, so this is the Strengthening Families Protective Factors Framework. This information is from that. I'm not going to say all of that every time. I'm just going to say framework. So whenever I say framework, just know I'm talking about this Strengthening Families Protective Factors Framework. So the framework itself, there are goals within the framework, and that's to strengthen families, have optimal child development, and of course, prevent child abuse and neglect, or reduce the likelihood of child abuse and neglect happening. So that's the framework itself. From the framework, this training itself has goals, objectives that we want to achieve. So I hope that when you walk away from this training, you realize that strength brings strength-based approach, it requires us to change our view. It requires us to look at families different, look at the way we're interacting with families and how we might change that in order to be more positive, in order to look at the strengths of that particular family. I hope when you walk away from this training, you have information about the ACEs, which are the adverse childhood experiences. And I'll talk a little bit about that. But we want you to just know what they are. And then also, I hope you have just general information about the protective factors, what they are, what you're already doing to build these protective factors, and other things that you might be able to do to build the factors in the families that you serve. I hope that when you're walking away from this training, that you recognize the importance of your culture and also the cultures of the families that you're serving. We want you to look at parents as a valuable partner and not as someone who's like an adversary in the work that you're doing. We want you to look at them as a partner and as a strong, valuable partner for the for you and your organization. I hope that you understand what the protective factors are and how they align with what you're already doing. I don't want you to walk away from this training thinking, oh, we have to purchase a curriculum, or oh, we need to buy this, or oh, we need to do this. Hopefully the things that you hear today are things that you're already doing, and we just want you to enhance it. We want you to be more intentional in the things that you're doing and how you're already building these protective factors. And then finally, at the end of the training, at the end of this presentation, I am going to talk about a self-assessment. It's the protective factor self-assessment, and it talks in that assessment, it looks at what you're already doing and what you might want to change in order to build the protective factors. And again, I'm just going to talk very little about that, but I will give you information that you can follow up with if it is something that you are interested in doing. So this framework has some things that are characteristics of that are helpful. So first of all, this benefits all families. Sometimes there are things that are in place that benefit specific families or families that have certain things going on. This is beneficial to every family. All families that you serve, your families, your neighbors' families, all families can benefit from these protective factors. It also builds on the strengths of that family, looking at the things that they're doing well, how they're able to survive, how they're coping, how they're helping and building their child's development throughout, that child's life. So it builds on the strengths of the positive things that they're already doing. And like I said before, these are things that you're already probably doing. It's just we want to build up on those. So whatever curriculums you're already using, whatever programs or strategies you already have in place, these things are very well aligned with those things. So again, it's not something completely off your grid or off your path. It's things that you're already doing. And throughout this presentation, you'll hear me say small but significant trainings. I mean, small but significant changes. And what that means is that there are little things that can be done that can create a big impact. When we first started working with the protective factors, we worked with lots of different centers, and the centers would have to do the self-assessment. And there was a center that we worked with that as a part of their self-assessment, when they talked about what they were doing well and what they hoped to improve on, what they found was that they needed to improve on just addressing parents, because when the kids would come into the center with their parent, of course, staff would immediately engage the child, talk to the child, have interactions with the child, and the parent was kind of like just a hand holding that child, holding on to that child's hand, and the parents weren't addressed as much. And so what that center found was that they needed to do that. They needed to engage the parent, because once you started to engage the parent, then you improved on that relationship, and that relationship then allowed you to have other conversations, difficult conversations, also allowed you to provide resources and have more communication, because that parent felt like they were a person. They were being looked at as a person and not just a hand that's walking that child into the center. So again, simple, small things that can be done that can build these protective factors. And then finally, this is grounded in research, practice, and implementation. So the research was done, and these are things that can be done. It's not just, oh, you get your protective factors information, you have it, and you put it on the shelf. No, get this information. We want you to use it. We want you to, again, figure out how you use it already and how you can expand on the things that you're already doing. So for the first part of this training, there are a couple of videos that I'm going to show. So this first one is building adult capabilities, because kids do not exist in a vacuum by themselves, right? There are adults all around kids, and they impact the kids and their development. So we want to look at how we can build the capabilities of the adults that are helping these kids or around these kids, so that way that can improve the life of that particular child. So I'm, again, it's a short video. It's like a 5-minute video on building adult capabilities. Oops, sorry. I was telling Diane that I used to be a professional when it came to Zoom, and I, you know, slipping a little bit. So please be patient with me. You guys can hear, show me a thumbs up.
The social challenges that face modern societies, whether it's the ability to work productively, to be a good citizen, stay healthy, have their roots in early health and development. A strong foundation in early childhood results in much better and more effective development later. A weak foundation really puts us behind. The most important thing children need to thrive is to live in an environment of relationships that begins in their family, but also extends out to include adults who aren't family members in child care centers and other programs. What children need is for that entire environment of relationships to be invested in their healthy development. We've shown from decades of testing interventions that we can improve outcomes. But the magnitude of those impacts is not good enough. Science is now available to help us think about what we might do that would have a bigger impact than the best of what we've done before. So we began to ask, what could we be doing differently? What could we do to be smarter? Children who are at the greatest risk for the poorest outcomes in learning and health and behavior are children who experience a pileup, a cumulative burden of one after another of risk factors. And then the burden is more than any child could be expected to overcome. So we began to focus on the development of the adults. What could we be doing to strengthen the capacity of everyone who interacts with children? This led us to think about the kinds of skills you need to deal with adversity. These skills of focusing attention, planning, monitoring, delaying gratification, being able to solve problems, being able to work in teams, executive function and self-regulation. They're also the kind of skills you need to create a well-regulated home and school environment in which healthy development and learning can take place. And then brain science started to tell us that differences in those skills start to develop in infancy based on the environment kids live in. So how do those skills get built? Well, if you don't develop them early, how do you develop them later? Actually, you can build them later because the period of flexibility and plasticity for this part of the brain doesn't fully mature until age 25 to 30. And then the light bulb went on. The reason we're not getting a bigger impact is not because we don't know about how to influence development, but because we're giving information and advice to people who we need to do active skill building with. Skill building by coaching, by training, by practice, but we're not doing that. So we now have developed this theory of change that says we need to focus on the development of the adults who are important in kids' lives.
So try this.
How does that work?
That's a new idea. Buen trabajo.
We need to focus on their skills, their needs, in order for them to be better, more effective parents, in order for them to be better prepared to be employable, which would enhance the economic stability of the family, which is also good for children. Second of all, we looked at many people in preschool programs and child care centers. And we said, what are we doing to build those skills in the providers? They need skill building as well. And also the community can help to build and reinforce the capacities that parents need. And the community also includes programs in which the people who work in the programs have sufficient skills. Third of all, what are the major sources of toxic stress in this community and how can we reduce them? Moving it up to a policy level, how are our policies strengthening communities' abilities to reduce source of toxic stress and caregivers' abilities to provide what kids need. The development of our human capital is our future. The development of a productive workforce is our future. The development of a healthy population is our future. This kind of future orientation is critical for healthy society. It's critical for a thriving business. It's critical for successful environmental relationships to raise children. It's all about being able to plan for the future, to have a future. And that's why this is so important.
All right, so again, in the video, it talks about how, if we want to improve the outcomes of kids, we have to do more for the adults in their lives. We have to help the adults. And it's not just on that adult, but it's on the community to do these things. It's on policies and things to make these things happen. So it's not just on the shoulders of one individual. So again, we want to do that for kids because it improves their life, across their life, and then it becomes a cycle. So if you improve the life of that child, then when that child becomes a parent or when they become an adult, they're able to do the same thing for the children who are coming up after them. So we want to, again, build on the capabilities of the adults in their lives so that it can improve the lives of the kids that they are with. When I talked about the objectives of this presentation, I said that one of the things I want you to walk away with is having information about the adverse childhood experiences. So adverse childhood experiences are stressors that can occur within a household, a community, the environment, that can, of course, have an effect on that child. And the thing about these adverse childhood experiences is that kids have no control over them. These are things that are happening in their life that they have no control over, but it impacts their life throughout their life. So once they become an adult, these things just don't stop happening. Like, it still has an impact on who they are. So these are some adverse childhood experiences that happen. And so there was a study done with 2 doctors, and they looked at these adverse childhood experiences and how it impacted an adult, how it impacted their health once they were an adult. And again, these were things that happened when they were very young, but even as an adult is still impacting them. So this is just, again, to help us to understand that these things that are happening to our kids, it's stressors. And when we have things that are stress, especially something considered a toxic stress, so it's occurring over and over again or over a long period of time, that will have a greater damaging effect on that person once they become an adult. So we want to, as much as possible, deal with these adverse childhood experiences. And the way you counter that is by looking at things like protective factors and strengths of the family and things that may be happening that they can do and actually they can change. Because unfortunately, for a lot of these things that are seen as average childhood experiences, sometimes parents and families, they just have no control over it and they can't do anything. So we want to look at what they can do and what they are doing well. If you want more information about the adverse childhood experiences, there are lots of places you can get this information. There is a TED Talk done by Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris. It's like 15 minutes. It's a wonderful TED Talk. She talks about the adverse childhood experiences and the study that was done and the impact that this has on kids. And she does a very good job of summarizing everything. So if you're looking for more information, that is a place to look. I will send Diane some information so that way, if as I'm talking, because I can't type in the chat and things like that, I'll send Diane information so that if you are, as I'm going through this presentation, if there's more information you want about certain things, I can make sure that Diane has that she can provide you guys with. So again, adverse childhood experiences are things that happen in a child's life that can then impact them as an adult. So what can we do to counter some of these adverse childhood experiences? That's where the strength-based approach comes in. A strength-based approach is one that looks at the resources and the strengths of the people, rather than looking at problems and pathologies that may be involved. traditionally, when you looked at child abuse prevention, it looked at what was wrong, the risk factors, what that family didn't have, some of the terrible things that may have been happening in that family. And the problem with that is that when you're only looking at the risk factors, when you're only looking at the wrong things and the things that they're not doing well, that's what you focus on and that's what you deal with. And so then all the wonderful things that they may be doing or the strengths that they may have kind of just get put to the backside. And like, if you're only dealing with the terrible things, then that's where you stay. And we don't want families to stay there. We want families to build. We want them to feel like they have choices, and we want them to feel like there are things that they're doing well. So that's why we want to look at the strength-based approach. Now, looking at the strengths does not mean that we completely ignore the weaknesses or the problems and the things that they're having, because they exist, right? They exist and they're going to continue to exist. So we're not ignoring them. We're just saying that, yes, there may be these things happening, but look at what you are doing. Look at how far you did come. Look at what you are accomplishing. So we want, again, families to focus on some of the strengths that they have, so that way it can kind of puff up their chest a little bit and help them to feel a little bit better about some of the things that maybe they are doing. So here's another video. And like I said, I'm just showing you a couple videos in the very beginning, and then we'll get to the meaty things. So this video is just looking at a part of strength-based approach is looking at things through a different lens. Again, often when we're dealing with families and dealing with people, we look at, oh, what can I do to help? What's wrong? What don't you have? And we want to switch that focus. So we want to switch it to, this is what you're doing well. This is how far you've come. This is how much you've accomplished. So this particular video has nothing to do with child abuse and neglect. But it just looks at how impactful it can be if you look at things through a different lens.
Gesture from residents of the Lost Dogs home this morning.
The Human Walking program provides desk-bound Melburnians a chance to get out of the office, get some exercise and make a new best friend.
It's hoped two-legged participants become so enamored with the experience they'll eventually decide to adopt their companion.
It's a wonderful idea. In fact, it's where the dogs are doing the rescuing.
We work in the city just on Little Collins Street.
Here's a fun way to pass the time during your lunch break by walking a dog. This is a great idea.
The Lost Dogs Home is having a human walking program event, encouraging office workers to get out from behind their desks, put those deadlines to one side, and get to know a dog that's up for adoption at the Lost Dogs Home.
They're all exceptionally attractive dogs.
I patted nearly every dog here. Yeah. Fell in love with a couple of them. Yeah, I wouldn't mind taking a couple of them home actually.
Wish it was a weekly thing. Yeah, that would be really good. Yeah.
All right, so again, what it was changing the focus, looking at things through a different lens. Instead of people rescuing dogs, it was dogs rescuing people. And what ended up happening was all the dogs ended up being adopted. So again, just changing your focus, changing the way you look at things can make a difference and can improve the life of not only one person, the person who's doing the giving, but also the person who's getting the benefits of that giving. So we want to, do that for families. We want to do that for the kids that we are working with. We want to do that for just our community in general. How can we shift our lens, change our focus to benefit us, but to benefit them, and to just make a difference in the lives of the kids that we are serving? Sorry. again, guys, work with me a little bit. So when we're looking at the strength-based approach, it's again, we're not ignoring the fact that problems happen. We're not ignoring the fact that there are not so great things happening in the lives of these families and of these kids, but we're looking at, again, what the positive things are so that they can focus on the positive things. One more video, and this one is, I'm not going to tell you too much because then I'll tell you everything. But this is a video of a person who is a typewriter artist. Hadn't heard of it before, now you know. So here we go with our typewriter artist.
Keystroke by keystroke, he types his latest masterpiece in an Oregon nursing home. But Paul Smith is not an author, he's an artist. He was born with severe cerebral palsy, yet Paul Smith has created hundreds of works of art using a typewriter.
You give me a typewriter, I can't even type 12 words a minute looking at my hands, okay? There is no way that I could come up with a picture like that.
Every time I flip through the work, I'm just amazed. Because it's as good as art as you can find.
Paul's movements are severely limited. His determination, endless. His disorder makes using a brush or pen impossible. But as a young man, he discovered the keys to expressing himself at the top of a typewriter keyboard. Using just 10 of the symbol keys, he taught himself to paint. Look closely and you can see how Paul typed pound signs to create the facial detail on his Mona Lisa. Here, the @ symbol doubles for desk drawer knobs in this scene of his childhood bedroom. Note the typewriter prominently displayed. Paul has created incredibly detailed pictures by artistically aligning those 10 keys against a black or colored ribbon.
His joy in life is finding ways to be creative. I think he sees that that's part of why he's on Earth, why we're on Earth. Well, I think the dog now has a tail.
When someone says, "I could never do that," Paul answers, Places Paul's lived or visited are the inspiration for much of his art, some of which lines the hallway of Rosehaven Nursing Center.
There's a lot of memories on this wall. Let's see, that's the ship you went to Bermuda on.
His family now is the staff and residents of Rosehaven, where he has lived since 1967.
Hey, Paul. How are you doing today? Are you still working on that dog?
Hi, sweetie. How you doing?
He's such a terrific person. He's such a humble man, a real gentle soul.
She's really nice.
Oh, thanks, Paul. It's easy to be nice.
Paul Smith would much rather brag about his friends at Rosehaven than about himself or his art. And those who know him say the same thing about Paul. The artist is even more inspiring than his art.
It's wonderful to watch him work, and it's wonderful to enjoy his art, but not as good as it's enjoying him.
Deeply religious, Paul says his artistic ability is a gift from God. His faith and something else keeps him going.
Your finger.
And with that finger for as long as he is able, this extraordinary man will continue creating his extraordinary art. one keystroke at a time.
All right, so Paul, and so in the video, Paul is an artist with his typewriter. Of course, we all saw that. And the thing is, what if people only focused on what he couldn't do? People only focused on his CP. Oh, he won't be able to do this. He can't do that. He has this. This is wrong. If people only focused on that, how much would they have missed? If Paul only focused on what he couldn't do, how much would he have missed? And so it's helpful, if we do look at what people can do, what brings them passion, what brings a smile to their face, what do they, what they are able to do and what they are able to provide. And so if we look at families in that way, not looking at what they're not doing, not looking at, how frustrating they can be and some of the things that, just get us irritated, but we look at how positive they are or things that they are doing, the fact that they care for their child, the fact that they chose your center because your center is, able to provide, a certain level of care, those kinds of things. So we want to look at those things, again, start focusing on the strengths and the positive things in families so that way they can start focusing on the strengths and the positive things that are occurring within that family. So we don't want to look at, we want to look at what is strong instead of what's wrong when it comes to people, families, individuals, our communities even. Looking at those things can make, again, changing the lens that we're watching people through. So now you guys are going to pick a family. And this is, again, something we're going to do through the chat because there's too many of us to go ahead and do this individually. So I'm going to read you a description of two families, and you are going to decide which family you would choose to work with. So you are, let's say you're a home visitor, and you are a very hardworking home visitor, big caseload, overload of things happening, and you're just barely surviving. Like every day is a struggle. Well, I come to you as your supervisor and I say, hey, one of your coworkers had a family emergency, so they're going to have to be out for 3 months. So I'm going to go ahead and divide up their cases, and I'm going to give you first pick. So you are going to pick which family you would like, family A or family B. Let me tell you about family A. Family A is mom, dad, and child. Mom has a degenerative disease, non-compliant with doctor's orders to quit smoking and have a healthy diet. Dad suffers from PTSD. He's been written up at work several times for walking off the job. The child is presenting with apraxia of speech, anxiety, and ADHD. That is probably why he's not in school yet. These are some notes. The household is unkept. A cat with a litter box in the kitchen is gross, and safety hazards throughout the house. Recommendations. Mom needs medication to quit smoking. Government recommendations for dieting. Pamphlet on household child safety, and a pamphlet on healthy cooking. Dad needs group therapy for PTSD if he's going to remain employed. Child assessments are forthcoming, likely speech therapy and medication for ADHD or anxiety. A full risk assessment should be completed for services, and they should be monitored for at least 12 months. This family has a lot of issues. So that's family A. Now here's family B. This is the Walker family. Jenny, Scott, and their 5-year-old Cade. They are a very busy family with a lot on their plate recently. Jenny has a very good disposition and spends a lot of time playing with the very active Cade. She is managing a recent diagnosis of MS and has taken steps to live a healthier lifestyle. She is working on better coping mechanisms. I really admire her resilience. Cade requires a lot of activity, and she seems to be keeping up the best she can. Scott is a hard worker and works a lot of overtime. He helps out around the house when he can and gets Cade active outside to give Jenny a break. His job provides health insurance, which is vital to their current health needs. Scott is a decorated veteran and may benefit from being involved with the local VFW for friendship and support. As I said, Cade is super active. He has fewer words than would be expected of his age, and we're looking for him to put more sentences together. Jenny and Scott made the decision to keep him home this year and give him some time to mature before kindergarten. He tends to move quickly from one activity to another. He's a really talented artist for his age. Jenny and Scott really encourage that. And when you get there, I'm sure they will show you his artwork around the house. They have some pretty specific challenges right now, but they seem to maintain a healthy sense of humor. I'm concerned about Jenny's health. She is managing a lot right now. Being in school will be interesting for Kate next year. We will need to make sure he has the adaptations he needs to be successful. This is a strong family. So in the chat, go ahead and put if you would prefer to work with family A or family B.
It was too long.
All right, so if you didn't figure it out yet, that family A and family B are the same family, the same exact family, same people. The difference was the description of the family. Family A, very technical. Mom, dad, child. Mom has this, dad has that. Family B looked at who they were, like as individuals, gave them names, first names and last name. Walker family, Scott, Cade, Jenny, gave them names, talked about them in a positive way. So again, we want to shift the way we look at families, change that lens a little bit. When you hear the descriptions or when you think about the descriptions, and for this, if you could like just raise your hand on your, if you guys know how to raise your hand on your thing, and then we can unmute so you can tell us. But when you think about a description, the way you describe a family, how do you think that family would feel if they heard description A? Anyone want to say how they think that family would feel if they heard description A? Oops, I didn't mean to do that, sorry. Anyone? Or if you want to type it in the chat, how do you think that family would feel if they heard that first description of them, who they are, their child? Someone said failing at, they feel like they would be failing at parenting, offended, absolutely, embarrassed, absolutely, defensive. And so again, this is the same family. So how might that same family feel when they hear description B? So the second description of them, how might they feel at that one? Heard and supported. Absolutely, their strengths were being identified, inspired, understood. Absolutely. Feeling it will get better. Absolutely. And that's, again, switching our focus, changing our lens that we're viewing families. That's what we hope at the end of this presentation, that's what we hope you'll do. And it's, again, small but significant things that we can do. Instead of referring them as mom, dad, and child, give them a name. Jenny, Cade, Scott, using their name, that makes a difference. If someone comes up to you and say, hey, that's one thing. But if they say, hi, Naja, that makes a difference, using someone's name. So small but significant things that can make a difference. And we want you to think about those things. A lot of this is really just being intentional. Again, like I said over and over, and I'll say continue throughout this presentation, these are things that you guys are already doing. These are things you already know that works, things you're already trying, but we just want to be more intentional in doing these things on a day-to-day basis with everyone, not just people who are in the office or not just people who are in the classroom, but we want this to make a change throughout the, the organization, throughout the center, or wherever you are. We want to make that change for everyone, not just for one person to do something, because if only one person is doing it, then how effective can it really be? Not saying that if it's only one person, it shouldn't happen, but we're just saying the more the merrier, the more people that are doing it, the more chances that change and things will occur. So we want to think about how you're interacting with the families, what you're saying to the families, what you're saying about the families. And sometimes, one little word or one little thing can make a difference. And we want you to, again, be intentional in what you're saying and making sure that it's as positive as it can be for that, about that child and about that family. So all right, so in the information that Diane sent to you, you guys should have received a cartoon, and this is the cartoon that you have, and this is the same family. This is Jenny, Scott, and Cade, and this is their home. You might notice the litter box that was mentioned in description A, right? So this is the family. And again, we want to change our focus, but we're not there yet, right? So we are going to look at the not so positive things that are happening in this picture. So in the chat, go ahead and just type in some not so positive things that you may be seeing, some risk factors, some things that may be dangerous, some things that would grab your attention if you walked into this house and saw it happening or you saw it in place. So go ahead and just type in the chat some things that you may see that perhaps would All right, so now let's go ahead and shift our lens. Time to change our focus. And so let's look at some positive things that you may see when you look at this picture. What are some positive things that you see? All right, so again, we wanted to switch our focus, right? So at first there was, oh, she's smoking, there's, medication lying around, there's the knife and the scissors and things like that. It's cluttered. But then when we changed our focus, we saw that everyone was smiling. We saw the little one was happy to see his dad, and there were groceries, he's carrying in groceries, there are fresh fruit and artwork and toys, toys there. The fishing poles. Someone mentioned the fishing poles for the not so positive things, probably because it's like, why you have fishing poles in the house? But when you think about it, they go fishing together. There's a big one and a little one. So that means that's something that they're doing together. All right, so again, we want to think about those things. Someone just said open arms. Yes, they're hugging, affection. And those are things that they are doing. Those are things that they're doing well. So if you walk in and you're only focusing on, mom's smoking, mom's, there's medication. Yeah, I'm not saying you ignore those things. We are not telling you to ignore those things, but we want to, again, start with the positive things. Talk about the positive things. Let them, acknowledge their strengths, acknowledge the things, again, that they're doing well. And when you acknowledge something, I don't know, like you guys have probably heard this before, but like when it comes to like kids' behavior, when you point out the negative things that they're doing, you may see that more often. So if you point out the positive things that they're doing, you'll see that more often. And so that's what we want to do with the families. We want to point out the positive, point out the strengths that they have. Sometimes they don't even recognize some of their strengths. So the fact that you can come in and tell them and acknowledge these things and help them to see these things can have a huge impact on that family. Again, having a huge impact on that child. So you want to look at those wonderful things that they're doing. And again, that helps to build that relationship, because if you go in and you're only saying the negative things that are happening or the negative things that you see, I don't want to talk to you. Every time I talk to you, you're negative Nancy. Every time I talk to you, it's something not so nice coming out your mouth. But if I, build that relationship with you and it's positive and you're saying nice things and making me feel better about who I am and who I am as a parent, who I am as an individual, then I may be more willing to listen to those things a little further down the line. Or I may be, if you tell me 3 positive things and only 1 negative things, I may be a little bit okay with that. So again, figuring out how we can, again, not ignore those not so great things that are happening, but how we can integrate some positive things there so that it's not all one-sided, lopsided. So all right, so Diane was so kind as to send me some situations. So now you guys are gonna, keep on with this positive strength-based thing. Diane sent me some real life situations that you guys may have provided her with, things that families do that can be frustrating. Can be frustrating to staff, can be frustrating to whoever is working with them. So for these situations, we are going to go into breakout rooms again, so you guys can actually have a conversation with each other. So it's not, again, just me giving you this information. So you guys are going to go into breakout rooms, and I'm going to flip between these two for a second. So these are some of the situations that, and I want you to, if you can write it down or just have in your memory, just pick one that you feel like most is one that would really get to you, one that maybe you've dealt with, one of these, and then we're going to go into breakout rooms in a minute. But what you're going to do when you get into those breakout rooms, you're going to talk about how you can approach these situations from a strength-based approach, how you can, talk to this family or deal with this situation from a strength instead of what they're, all the terrible things that you're thinking. I purposely did not change the wording that Diane used just because I wanted it to be as authentic as possible. I didn't want to, make it all, rainbows and butterflies. I wanted to keep it as authentic as possible. So I left the wording the same. So I want you to also think about how you might word it so that it's more strength-based. So when it says, bringing in a child that's clearly sick, how might you say that in a way that's different? Because, and I'll just, not saying anything not positive, but when you say clearly sick, it sounds like there's a little bit of judgment, you know what I mean? So think about how you might even word these things so that it's not, so it's positive, it's not judgmental, it's not, already, making that parent feel bad by the way you even, name what it is that they're doing or not doing. So again, just write down one or just have one in your head that you are going to talk about once you guys get into your breakout rooms. And so again, once you get into the breakout room, you're going to look for strengths of the families, things that you can think of that could be a strength for that particular family, and then how you can approach the issue in a strength-based way. And think about how the impact that it'll have, like the way you approach that family or the way you talk about the family or deal with the family, how that can how that approach may impact your interactions later on with that family. Okay, so again, here are the situations. And so Diane, for this one, can we do, how many people are there? Oh, 95 people now. Can we do, I don't know, like 10 rooms again?
It looks like it's kind of automatically, if you wanted to put people back, but because we already moved our larger people out of the group, they're not in there. So it should be, it's like 7 people.
Yeah,
Does that work? 7?
Yes.
A few, like 1 or 2 have 8, but it looks like.
Okay.
Does that work?
And we'll do like 7 minutes again, just to, go ahead and talk about what, how you might approach these things from a strength-based way. Okay.
And for those of you that are still in the main room, make sure that you click to go to your breakout room. It'll automatically bring you back.
It didn't bring us one.
I didn't get a link.
I didn't
get a
group either.
Okay, hang on just a minute then. Everybody should just give me just a minute. I'm trying to get everybody to a room that doesn't have one. Thank you for your patience.
Mine still didn't ask me to join the breakout room.
Me too.
Okay, give me just a second.
Me too.
I'm not in the breakout room.
Okay, it looks like everybody. Oh, wait, sorry. 3 more people. Hold on. Okay, everybody should have a room.
I don't.
Who was that?
Katrina from Aliba Faye.
Hold on, Katrina, I'm trying to find you. Sorry, Katrina, I'm trying to find you on this big list and I don't see you.
What big list? You see my name up there? No.
Oh, wait, I found you. I found you. Sorry about that. I'm sending you now. The rooms probably got much bigger. That's my fault, Nija. When I did it, I saw it and it automatically, I guess, put everybody back in. but when new people joined, it
Oh,
it must have just had the old saved one. So that's
gotcha.
why it looked like that. So I there was a lot more people that were, everybody's probably like, okay, we're having a party of like, 15, 20.
Gotcha.
I thought she said 7 or 8. Oh well, plenty of conversation. It's all good. So just so now that I moved everybody again, I know with the neck, well, the one that you want to do, we're going to do it by 16 rooms. I can do that. Right. But I don't know how many more breakouts.
I am thinking, I maybe won't do that one. I may just talk through and like have them put in the chat because it's 2:15.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Naja, at the very end, it's very brief. So,
Okay.
you know, anywhere between like 5-10 minutes, any like, yeah. So
But I'm still thinking, yeah, maybe.
that's fine. You just let me know. But sorry about that. The breakout rooms, I was like, yeah, everybody went. And then I'm like, oh, which is strange because usually it assigns people, but yeah.
Doing its own thing. All right, Diane, you want to go ahead and bring them back? Diane?
Sorry, Naja. Somebody from a breakout room requested help. I guess they were like, what are we supposed to do? So I clicked the thing, not realizing anyway. And then I was trying to help give them a couple of the examples from here. So I was like, oh, I actually know them. Which one? So
I was like, Diane, we can come back. Then, yeah, it's fine. I was able to bring everybody back, so we're fine. All right. So, so hopefully, in your groups, you talked about these situations, but you put the positive spin on them. I realized that I could have went into the groups and just listened, but it didn't occur to me until like there was a minute left or so. So would someone like to tell me?
Recording in progress.
Would someone like to tell me something that you guys like, the positive spin that you put on one of these situations? If you want to just like do a hand raise and let me see, and then you can unmute and tell me what you guys came up with. Anyone? Trying to scroll through all the
we didn't actually come up with something, but one of the teachers was sharing that they don't allow toys, outside toys in their center, but parents continue to bring them. So a way to address it is having a sign, handing it back to the parent when they come in, or having a basket that they can put them in, or a bag that they go in at the door, but it has a sign that says we are not responsible for lost or stolen or misplaced items because they're not supposed to be here.
Right.
But having everyone in the center actually follow whatever those rules are. So if there are no toys, then everyone is saying there are no toys and they're going back out. If there are no late drop-offs, then everyone is being dressed unless you had prior approval for the later drop-off.
Okay. And so one of the things, so Prevent Child Abuse Delaware, we I guess still do. We had a training where it's like how to work as a team and some of the things that would be helpful, and how you work with the family, how you address the family, things like that. And one of the things that we did, we talked about how you ask a question. So if you say, I wonder, and sometimes when you say something like, I wonder, it can kind of lessen the harshness of what it is. And so I wonder if, they give them the toy to stop them from tantrums so they can get to the center on time. Those kinds, like that's the spin we want to see. I wonder if, dad was just so frustrated that, he gave him the toy to kind of let him go in his own world so he can focus on, getting them to the center, safely, or, those kinds of things. So again, not saying you shouldn't have the rules, not saying you shouldn't have things in place, but sometimes if we say like, I wonder if, those kinds of things can kind of lessen the criticism and some of the things that we're saying. Destiny, what were you going to say?
One of the different examples that really, triggered me here. I work for Newcastle County Head Start, needing to chase families down to get the needed forms. So at Head Start, we require a lot of forms, and we are very much on top of everything. So last year we have family advocates. We noticed that we wouldn't get any dentals back. We wouldn't get physicals back. We wouldn't get anemia, hemo, like all of these things. And this year, after tons of training, of course, I recommended and encourage my family advocate, start with those strengths, build those relationships. When you go to the houses, see what's in the house. Oh, mom, you like to paint? Hey, how are those paintings going? Versus saying, oh, I need this dental form. And also prioritizing the importance of things. If a family is experiencing homelessness, a form can go on the back burner. So we would definitely address those things first. So I think that's a way to spin that around, kind of just building those relationships and starting off with those strengths before just heading it straight into paperwork.
Thank you. Sharon, what were you going to say?
Hi. Basically, I think the most important thing to do is to check in with the family, and to ask, to keep working on the relationship. ask how they've been, ask how the children have been, and keep building upon that. Make little stair steps until you can gain that person's trust and respect, and also that they can trust and respect you. And a lot of times parents use toys or objects as transitional objects. Like you said, that helps them get from point A to point B. Sometimes they can't leave the house unless the child has what they need to feel secure. Otherwise, they're gonna be going, having temper tantrums, and when they come in, they're gonna be hollering, kicking and screaming or whatever. So you gotta kind of work with that family, and like Destiny suggested, or whoever was talking, it might have been you, how do you say your name? Nigeria?
Naja.
Naja, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Naja, you just have to, figure out how you can get the child to release the toy or the object once they get there, put them in the box like you said, or whoever said that. I thought that was a good suggestion, and tell them that it'll be there for later or what have you. But those are the things that we have to work with. And if the parent feels like you are belittling that child's emotional need, or you don't care about their child, you just want to get on with business, they're not gonna they're not gonna have the form for you the next time.
Absolutely.
Because they gotta feel empowered, and they gotta have some type of power and say so in the situation as well.
Thank you, Sharon. All right, one more. Brittany and Kaylee, you guys want to go ahead, and what were you going to say?
Okay, so I was just gonna say it really goes for all of them in general. I feel like as providers and as directors, we have to build that sense of relationship with parents and child, because at the end of the day, we don't know as like what's the routine of a parent, what time they wake up, what they do, how they come in here with their child, what the child does with the parent in general. If the parent verbalizes, oh, like, I wake up, we have breakfast together, and then we come in here, or as if we wake up and then I take them and we bring them in here or something like that. The point is, I feel like every child has a different individual need, and they come in individually. And for us to know that as providers helps the routine and help them like transition from home to daycare.
Absolutely. So again, that relationship, the relationship you have with the child, the relationship you have with the parent, that can, work wonders in addressing some of these things, and the way that that parent views the way you approach them or talk to them and things like that. So again, we want to, look at the strengths and the positive things and work that into our conversation, so that again, it's not just negative Nelly always saying something, what you're not doing or what you're not doing right. All right, so I'm gonna go back. All right, so so this I'm gonna speed up a little bit. We have only a half an hour. All right, so I'm gonna speed up a little bit. So through the framework is, there are 3 common threads that you'll see. So this is, I'll say this is the introduction course. So this is the introduction course. There are 6 other presentations. So there's one for each of the protective factors, and then there's a wrap up. And so through all of these trainings, through all of these presentations, there are 3 common threads. The framework is one. So like I said, this protective factor framework and this logic model we're going to look at in a minute. Also culture, the importance of your culture, the importance of the cultures of the families that you serve, because that just cannot be ignored. And then also the critical role that parents play. Parents, we want you to look at them as a partner, and a part of having a partner is, building that relationship so that you trust them, they trust you. And again, your that trust and that relationship can move mountains. Like, it can do all kinds of things. You know that sometimes there's a little one in one class, and sometimes a worker from another class may have to come in and talk to that little one because of the relationship that they've already built. And it does. I've been trying all day to get him to do that. And you come in and you say 3 words and now it's getting done. How is that? The relationship that person has with that little one. And so again, so these are the things that you'll see throughout these trainings. This is very introduction, very small, very little information. So when you're looking at this logic model, this is a logic model. And in the logic model, you'll see how what we want or what's needed is to build parent relationships, shift policies, and understand, deepen the understanding and knowledge. In order for that to occur, we have to have program practices and also worker practices. It's important for the program as a whole to kind of enforce these things, but it's not going to work if the workers themselves aren't doing these things, or it won't work if it's only one worker doing it and the program itself is like, we can take it or leave it, it's not a big deal for us. Everyone has to work together in order to build these protective factors. Once these protective factors are built, then you have results. You have reducing likelihood of child abuse and neglect occurring. You have strengthened families. You have the optimal child development. So in order for these things to occur, again, everyone has to be on board. It's not just a one person kind of thing. So I've said over and over again, protective factors. Like I said, when you signed up for this presentation, I'm sure you thought about the protective factors. So let's talk about what these protective factors are. There are 5 protective factors that the Center for the Study of Social Policy came up with. Each of these protective factors are things that can be built within a family to reduce the likelihood of child abuse and neglect occurring. The first of which is parental resilience. And that just means that the grown-ups in the family, the adults in the family are able to manage their stress. When you're able to manage your stress, you may be able to then focus on building a relationship with your child. So if you're able to deal with, the adult things that you have to deal with, then you may be able to work on, devoting some of your time to the relationship that you have with your child. When a parent is resilient, that is also serving as a model for that child or for the kids in their life of what to do and how to handle stress and trauma. Because again, we can't always stop these things from happening, but sometimes it's your reaction to the stress and trauma that is just as impactful as the stress and trauma itself. So we want parents and adults in that child's life to be resilient and to be able to bounce back, understand, yes, these negative things may happen to me, but it doesn't make me who I am. I can, come through, and I can not only survive it, but I can thrive afterwards. So that's parental resilience. Another protective factor is social connections. It's important for us to have connections to other people, and not just a connection, not just relationships, but it's important for those relationships to be healthy, positive, and nurturing. So we want families to have connections to other people, because when they have these connections, they're more likely to reach out for help. They're more likely to maybe call someone and let off some of that stress so they're not taking it out on their child. And this support can be emotional, it can be instrumental, it can be information, it can be spiritual, but it's just having a connection to someone. And it's not just about numbers, right? So because we can be in a room full of people, and if we don't feel emotionally connected to anyone, it just doesn't have an impact on us. So we want these connections to be impactful, and we want them to be healthy, again, for that family, for that person, and for the kids. Another protective factor is the knowledge of parenting and child development. Having information about parenting is helpful, because it helps you to realize that parenting is always evolving. You may have had 4 kids before, and then your 5th child is completely different. So the way you parented those first 4 kids, it doesn't work for that 5th little one. And so you have to figure it out, right? You have to get more information about parenting. When you do that, you also a part of knowledge of parenting is also having information about child development. Because when you have information, or when parents have information about what's normal, what's not normal, what's expected, what's not expected for their child development, they can become more patient with themselves. So if they know that tantrums is a natural thing that is going to happen, then they may be less critical of themselves when their child has a tantrum. They won't think, oh, I'm the worst parent, or, oh, there's something wrong with my child because he's having a tantrum. No, this is natural. This is okay. It's going to happen. So when parents have that kind of knowledge, again, they're more patient with themselves. They may be more patient with their child. When they have knowledge of parenting and child development, they also may be able to advocate for their child in different ways. So if they know, as a part of development, if they know that kids who have ADHD have certain things that are, they may do, and then they say, well, yeah, that's for other kids who have ADHD, but my child who has ADHD, they present it in this way. So then they can advocate for their child. Yes, this might be what you usually see, but for my child, this is what you're going to see. And this can be helpful when you're dealing with my child. So again, having that knowledge can help them to advocate for their child and advocate even for themselves and their family. Another protective factor is the concrete support in time of need. And that just means that we want families to get what they need when they need it. That concrete support. So if they need certain resources, knowing that they need the resources, asking for help for the resources, and then being able to access those resources. So it's like, okay, I know there are 3 different places that can provide A, B, and C, but I don't have transportation to get to 2 of those places. So again, not only knowing where the resources are, but being able to access those resources is really important. Sometimes as a provider, you may not be able to provide the actual resource, but helping families to navigate through the different systems and things in order to get that resource is just as good of a support. So maybe I can't provide what you need, but I know someone who can. So let me call them up. We call it a warm transfer. Let me call them, say, hey, I have this family that's dealing with A, B, and C. I know you guys provide it. Can I send them over? Can I give them your name? Can I, give you their name or whatever it is? So that's concrete support as well. So even if you're not able to provide the resource yourself, being able to help that family navigate the system or get that resource from someone else is just as helpful. And the last protective factor is called social emotional competence of children. So, excuse me. So helping kids to get, have interactions with other people, helping them to have positive interactions with other people and maintaining relationships, helping kids to regulate and recognize their emotions and what they're dealing with. Those things can be helpful for kids, and it's also helpful for the adults that are dealing with those kids. So when kids are able to verbalize what they're feeling, or they're able to tell what they're dealing with, or have a reaction to certain things with emotional intelligence, that can make a difference, make a difference for that child, make a difference for your interactions with that child. So these are the 5 protective factors that we look at, and these are the 5 protective factors that we want to build. When families have these things in place, it reduces the chance or the likelihood of child abuse and neglect happening. Now, again, not saying that it won't happen ever, but when you have, so if there's a parent who's really frustrated with some of the behaviors of their child, if they know something that's going to occur, again, they may be more patient with that child. Or if they're able to reach out, social connections, reach out to someone and say, hey, he's driving me crazy today. I just need to vent. I need to talk about these things. That can be helpful. Or if they are able to put their child in a program, that concrete support that can, help that child to deal with whatever it is that they're dealing with. So those are the things that can, again, reduce the chance of likelihood of child abuse and neglect occurring. So when we look at these protective factors, there are strategies that anyone can do to build these protective factors. Again, everyday actions, and these are things, again, that you're probably already doing. I'm sure you guys are creating an inclusive environment. I'm sure you're responding to families when they're in crisis. So it's things you're already doing, but it's just being more mindful, being more intentional in what it is that you're doing. This just creates a common language. It creates a common vocabulary. So you can say, oh yes, we are building social connections. And then this center over here, they're also building social connections. And the center down the road is also, so just having that common language can kind of help you to see what exactly is happening and what you're already doing and what you might continue to do, or again, being intentional. So we want you to look at like what the protective factors, what you're doing for each individual protective factor, and how you might be able to do something a little bit more, again, as an organization and as an individual within that organization. So this, I'm not going to do, so this was another, so in the information that Diane sent to you, there was the a handout that had 7 stickies on it. And so what we were going to do, what I was going to do was just have you say what you're already doing. And you can do this now while I'm talking, you can put it in the chat. What are some of the things when you're looking at these 7 strategies, what are you already doing to build these strategies in the work that you're doing? It could be you as an individual. It could be what your center is doing. It could be what the director is doing. What the program that you work for, whatever, what are you already doing to build these strategies? Because again, these strategies relate directly to the protective factors. So if you're strengthening families by having parenting classes, you're helping with the knowledge of parenting and child development. If you are facilitating friendships by having, donuts for dads or muffins for moms, that's, looking at, those social connections. So again, these strategies that work directly with the protective factors. And when you build those protective factors, again, you have decreasing or reducing the likelihood of child abuse and neglect occurring. So again, we want you to think about what you're already doing and how you might continue to do these things and how you might be more mindful. I don't want you to walk away and think, okay, again, we got to buy this, we have to purchase that, we have to do this, we have to completely, do a 180. You shouldn't have to do a 180 because hopefully even if your goal isn't necessarily, preventing child abuse and neglect, it is building families, protecting children. So this framework, again, it's in alignment with other strength-based approaches. So if you already have a strength-based curriculum in place or something else that you're already doing, the strength-based, this works right with it. Again, it's not something else, but it's just something that you can do to kind of widen the path that you're on, not changing the path, but just widen the path so that you're, even more tools and resources at your fingertips. So the second, the framework is the first thread that's in all the trainings. The second thread in all the trainings is the importance of culture. Culture, your culture, the culture of the families that you serve, is important. Our culture affects who we are. It makes us who we are. When you're looking at how culture impacts your families, that when they're seeking to build protective factors, what is that culture's view on seeking help? There are some cultures that are very prideful, or some cultures that are, we handle it within our family, we handle it within our organization, like we don't reach out for help, we can, very self-sufficient, that kind of thing. So if that is a value of that culture, how do you, give them the help that they may need, or how do you break through that barrier for them to see you as someone who's a part of their community or a part of their circle that they can actually reach out for help from. So how does your culture shape how you think, feel, and behave? If you have very strong religious views, how might that impact your interactions with a family that has different religious views? Or how might that impact your interactions with a family that has does not believe in organized religion? And then how do differences in culture impact helping others build protective factors? So knowledge of parenting is one of the protective factors, but parenting looks very different across cultures. Your idea of parenting and someone else's idea of parenting can be very different. So how do you still build that protective factor? Even if if you don't view it the same way that the families that you have in your center or your program, if your views are different, then how do you still build that protective factor? So those are some of the things that it's important to think of when you're working with families, your culture, how it impacts you, how it impacts the families, and how that may sometimes create a kind of a struggle and building that protective factor because your views and things may be different. Again, I'm super duper going fast because I'm trying to be mindful of our time. So when it comes to culture, our end goal, of course, is cultural safety. We want people to feel spiritually, socially, emotionally, and physically safe wherever they are. And the way we build that is first cultural awareness. Again, understanding that there is a difference between your culture and other cultures. Cultural sensitivity, so not only being aware of the fact that there's the difference, but being accepting of the differences, and knowing that your culture isn't the only one. Your culture isn't isn't always the best thing for other people. So being culturally sensitive. And then finally, we also want to be cultural humility. And that's when you look at yourself, look at the things that you believe about your culture, look at the things you believe about other cultures, and how, and critiquing yourself on those things. Do you have biases? Do you have things, stereotypes that you read and feel that you use or you have in your mind about different cultures, because that does make a difference in the way you interact with families. And parents and families can pick up on those things. They can pick up if you feel like there's a bias or there's something that you're thinking or you're judging them. They pick up on those things, and that will impact their reaction to you, when you're asking them for things or when you're talking to them about different things. So when it comes to cultural safety, again, we want you, the reason why it's important is because people have been mistreated or there has been trauma, historical trauma, and we want to move past those things. We want to help families to again, not only survive, but to start to thrive after things have happened to them. And so when you have cultural safety, so when people feel comfortable, when they feel relaxed, when they feel safe in your organization or in your center, they're less likely to misunderstand something that you may be trying to say or do. They may prevent they may stop being disengaged, because if I don't feel safe or if I don't trust you, I'm not going to engage with you. I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to tell you, the issues and problems that I may be having in my family. Why would I do that? I don't trust who you are. I don't trust your organization. And so when we do have cultural safety, that's when families are willing to express what they're dealing, tell you about what they're dealing with and experiences. They're more likely to feel valued in your organization, and that's what we want. We want everyone to feel valued. We want people to feel like they belong and they're safe, and this is a safe space for them and their child, especially their child. So when it comes to culture, we need to slow down, not just assume that we know things or make assumptions about a person or a family because of their culture. We want to listen and build those relationships, because as you guys said, those relationships are everything. And that can help us to develop trust and can also help us to develop understanding. And once you get that understanding, you have a better idea of why a family may be more reluctant to do certain things, or you may have a better understanding of why a family responded the way they did when you sent a certain message home. And so again, and as you start to understand the culture, just always be aware that even if you have lots of information about a culture, that doesn't mean you know everything, unless that you are in that culture. I have a nephew who is deaf, and he's 32 now, like 32. So he's been deaf since birth, and I've had a lot of interactions with deaf people, with deaf culture. But do I know everything? Absolutely not. Do I feel like I have a lot of knowledge? Yes, I do. But again, even when you're like very immersed in a culture, you still want to be aware of the fact that there's still more to learn. There's still things that you can learn. And when you are open to learning things and open to having conversations with people, that's just a sign of respect. Not walking in feeling like, oh, I already know, because then you're dismissive. And when you're dismissive, then, I don't feel valued. And if I don't feel valued, I don't need to build this relationship at all. I don't need to continue to try to get you to understand my point of view, because you already know everything. So we just want to be open to, what families can provide, or the value of the families that you serve. So understanding bias. We are biased, it's things as simple as there's a joke that was going around, or not a joke, but this like brain teaser, I guess you would call it. And there was a doctor, and the doctor walked into this operating room and said, oh my goodness, I can't operate on them. This is my child. And the what happened was there was an accident, father and son in the accident, father died, child is in the operating room, doctor comes in and says, oh my goodness, I can't operate on them, this is my son. And people are like, how is that your son? Because people are thinking, the dad died, so who is this person? It's the mom. And you know, initially people are like, what? It's like, oh yeah, a woman can be a doctor, a woman can be a surgeon, you know. So again, little things like that we don't even we're not always conscious of, but we do, you know, assumptions we make, stereotypes we put in place, that those are the biases. And so we want to put aside those biases. We want to, you know, meet people where they are, not just, you know, make assumptions about who they are or where they came from or why they are the way they are. So putting those things to the side so that we can be as genuine and authentic in our interactions with people. So I'm going to skip this. This is an activity that we're going to do, but we're not going to do it. So go through that. So why is it important to build our partnerships with our families? Because parents are, you know, the center of their child's life. Their child does not exist by themselves. Even if you may want to, you know, we say when people go into childcare and teaching, they don't say, oh, I'm doing it because I want to work with parents. Usually that's not the idea behind it, but you are going to work with parents. You have to work with parents because again, kids don't exist by themselves. And when families are involved, it can, you know, have positive effect on that child because it kind of trickles down. The positive relationship you have with that parent then may improve that child's relationship with that parent because, you know, two important adults in this child life get along, and when they get along, then it helps and benefits that child. Because think about how many families, when there's the adults who are not getting along and they're fighting, how it impacts that child, because it will impact that child. So again, when you have families that are involved and families who feel supported and valued, they are more likely to get involved, that is more likely to kind of trickle down to that child and having those positive people around them. Why do parents get involved? Because when they believe that this is important, it's important to them, it's important to you, when they believe that they're going to be listened to. So if you do a survey, excuse me, and you ask parents their information or ask them something, then give them some feedback on that survey. Give them some feedback on, you know, what they said. Even if you don't implement the things that they're asking, just give them some feedback. Well, we listened, we tried it, we thought about it, work, whatever it is. But, you know, if parents are giving you information, then make sure you acknowledge the fact that you're receiving that information. Letting them know that their participation makes a difference. You know, when they know that it matters to you that they show up, then they may be more likely to show up. Or if they know that it matters to their child that they show up, they may be more likely to show up. We want parents, how do you keep parents involved? You give them different opportunities. So it's not just once, you know, from 3 to 5, that's the only time you're offering things. There was a center that we work with, they realized that if they offered things in the morning before parents, when parents were dropping their kids off, they got some parents who would stay around for just a minute and, you know, do some things. And then they would offer things in the afternoon too, when parents came to pick up their kids. So it wasn't like, okay, 3 hours after you know, got home, now you got to come back out and try and come to this activity. And they were like, well, yeah, how about we offer it at different times so that family, you know, so that it works for families. Assure that, you know, when they share their opinion or their experiences, perhaps they had a not so great interaction with a staff member. Parents don't want to feel like, okay, if I had a negative interaction with this staff member, now none of the staff people like me, or now everyone's, you know, giving me an evil eye. You know, help them to, you know, feel reassured that you know, their experiences does not mean that this is going to be now you're blackballed. You know, we can't, you know, nobody can talk to you kind of thing. We want, so when you're going to start inviting parents, you know, asking them what they want, what do they need? Sometimes we make assumptions about what people need. And, you know, when we make assumptions, it's not always right. So, you know, asking them, what do you want? What can I do? How can I help? What can I do to make this a better experience for you, for your family, for your child? And there's lots of information out there. Like I said, I'll talk to Diane, or I'll send Diane some of these resources, the 5 protective factors, those handouts you already have, but I can send Diane like the websites and things like that that you guys can go to. So you can check out some of these things. It gives lots of information on how to get parents involved and how to keep parents involved and things like that. Again, I'm going because I am conscious of our time. Finally, the self-assessments. Again, if you're interested in a self-assessment, it is a lot of work, I'll tell you that. There are a couple people in here who are centers that we work with, so they know it is a lot of work, but I think it's worth it because I think you do get valuable information from your staff, from your parents, and things that you can do to improve, again, without spending money, but just things that anyone can do, everyone can do. So if you're interested in that, again, let Diane know or let me know, and I can, get you more information on the self-assessment because there are different ones. There's one for centers, there's one for family care, home visited, and also just the general community. So all of that being said, I know I went super duper fast at the end. I'm sorry, I didn't time myself as well as I could have. So Diane, go ahead and you can finish up if you like.
Thanks, Nija. Hey, Nija, there was a question in the chat if you would share the whole slideshow with the group. I can send it out to everybody, but I just wanted to make sure that we would be able to share it.
So let me say this. I am not able to share the, like to send someone what do you call this? The slideshow. I'm not able to do that. I know you recorded it, Diane, right? So they'll have access to that. Is that right?
Yes, so we'll send out a follow-up email and we'll put the recording on there.
Okay.
And then we can also make sure that we send any specific links, and I'll resend all of the papers that we sent out with the original email. And then if there's any other things too that you see that you're like, oh, I need more resources for this. If you email back to me, I can connect with Nija to make sure that we get you that information. So Nija, I'm going to have you stop sharing your screen and I'm going to pull something up.
Yes, ma'am. All right.
And we're going to have Aisha provide us with a bit of information.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging in with us for the afternoon. It was a very good session. I got to meet and talk to people in my breakout group, so I'm so happy, but I wanted to give a couple closing remarks. Thank you for joining us today for the Protective Factors training hosted by the Delaware Head Start Association. Yeah. Woo! Anyway, thank you, Nija, for being here with us today. We want to also thank our sponsor, the Office of Early Learning, that's the office I work for, and our partners, the Prevent Child Abuse Delaware and the Delaware Readiness team. So put your hands together for them. Anyway, as a reminder, a follow-up email will be sent, which will have a survey. If you could please complete the survey, and it is for a raffle, so please do that. At this time, we would like to take this opportunity to share with you information about the upcoming Making a Difference conference. This is huge. We haven't been in a conference together in a long time, and we will be celebrating our 10th Making a Difference conference. Put 10 in the chat for 10 because it will be the 10th. It will be on Friday, October the 13th, 2023, excuse me, at the Delaware Technical Community College in Dover, Delaware. It will be from 9 a.m. to 3:30. And we're excited to be again in person. The COVID restrictions went in effect a week before March 2020. So that was the last time we were supposed to be together. And so registration for the October conference will open the beginning of September. Now, we have never had a Spanish track, but this year we will have a Spanish track for those who speak Spanish or would like their training in Spanish. And the capacity for the event will be 280 participants. So that means you better get and register now. Don't wait, don't hesitate. Well, not now, but September. Don't wait because it's gonna fill up. Also, there'll be full details about the conference somewhere around August. There is a lot of construction going on at Del Tech. So the format for the conference will be different. Before, we used to have a large gathering together and then breakout rooms. We won't be doing breakout rooms this year, unfortunately, because of the construction. So what we'll be doing is we will all be together in one large room, and then we'll have different presenters come to us outside of the Spanish speakers track. Okay, so just a little bit of difference, but we're still gonna have a great time. We're still gonna learn and grow and share from each other. We'll still have vendors. And so if you are interested in being a vendor or a sponsor or making an in-kind donation, we will be sending out the paperwork for that the month of June. And you can contact the conference coordinator, who is Diane Frenzel. Let's give her a hand. She's right there. You want to contact her. And we look forward to a fun-filled day, a fun-filled conference. And we hope to see you all on October the 13th for our 10th annual Making a Difference conference. We're so excited, and we just look forward to seeing you all then. We want to say thank you. We thank you for hanging with us. Have a great afternoon to all the mothers or my godmothers, grandmothers, aunts, whatever, filling in the gap as a mother. Happy Mother's Day. And we are thinking about you, even if you are in loss or in memory of your mothers and grandmothers and those that have played the important parts of your lives. We just thank you for the work that you do. We thank you for all of the teachers out there that support the children and the families of Delaware. Have a great day. Have a great afternoon. And thank you so much. Bye. Happy Friday.